Hi, you're listening to Everyday Superpower, a place where you're able to learn how to efficiently read the minds of others through observing their body language and gestures, alongside understanding the signals you yourself send out into the world. We keep it nice and simple here, we don't overcomplicate things, and after each video you'll be able to apply this knowledge in the real world. So if you like what you hear, click like, click subscribe, leave a comment if there's anything that interests you in particular. Today, we're going to be covering the personal space of an individual, not in a material possession, but more so in a how close to an individual can you get, and what does it mean and signify regarding the personal space and intimate spaces of an individual. Okay? So what I want you to do is picture that you yourself alongside everybody else has a consistent circle that surrounds them, which is their territory. When you enter such a closeness with that individual and continue closening in, alarm bells start to operate within the subconscious of that individual's mind, purely down to a biological survival mechanism. So let's talk about it. The closest space, the closest radius, is within 6 to 18 inches of a person. So from the touch of the skin outwards to a space of 16 to 18 inches, dependent on the individual. Why the space will vary, we'll cover in a later video. But that's what we classify as the intimate zone, because this space is reserved for the most important people close mentally to that person, which then applies to the physical realm. The person will guard this space as if it's their own property. So if you were in a person's, personal zone, which we will discuss later, and you step into that intimate zone, they may naturally take a step back away from you as it starts to be uncomfortable being so close to an individual whom doesn't have the psychological right to be that close. Okay? So those whom are emotionally close to this individual are allowed to enter. These are people such as close family, parents, the partner of the individual, the children, pets, of course, and to re-clarify, it will extend upwards of 6 to 18 inches away from that individual. Once you go within that space, you're sort of stepping upon an intimate physical space, which is primarily used for actual contact with the individual. You'll see when it comes to attraction that people will enter this space on a quotations accidental basis, but linger around in that space. Because if both parties are sexually interested in each other or comfortable to such a degree, they will allow that space to be infiltrated by the other party. So when you are sitting next to somebody you are interested in and you slightly touch them with the side of your leg, let's say you're sitting next to them and they don't move away, that's them accepting you within that intimate zone. And as humans, that's an incredible statement of trust. And I say that because the brain of the other individual has picked up that you're there. But the conscious mind has said, no, we enjoy this, rather so than I need to get away for the safety of my life. Now, moving on. From the edge of that 6 to 18 inch radius, we're moving into the personal zone. So from the edge of the individual's intimate zone outwards to a maximum of 48 inches, which is 1.22 meters. This is the personal zone. This is where we'll stand and allow people in whom are colleagues, people whom we're talking to at particular gatherings and events. So if you're speaking to a small group of friends at a party or at a musical event in the smoking area as such. And this still is an allowance into your personal space. It's your personal zone, okay? So still, those whom you deem unattractive or repulsive won't spend long in this zone unless you are going to be dealing with the heebie-jeebies. It's going to affect your brain. It's going to trigger you if somebody whom you don't feel comfortable is within this space, within 48 inches of you, whilst communicating, or whilst not communicating, verbally at least. So that's the personal zone, okay? For those whom you are close with yet don't necessarily need to get so close to, alright? Somebody stepping from the personal zone into the intimate zone is somebody who's making a bold statement, and as to whether you allow that to happen speaks volumes on your behalf. Now, when we go from the personal zone, we enter the social zone, alright? And that's between 4 to 12 feet. So that's from the 48 inches to 12 foot. So that's 1.22 meters to 3.6 meters. This is a broader space around the individual, and this is the social zone. This is where we speak to potential clientele at the workplace. This is where we speak to someone selling us a product at the shop, and people whom we don't know very well but are communicating with. This allows both parties to have enough space that no alarm bells are triggered, while still showing acceptance and a degree of closeness that isn't a mile away, okay? So this is the social zone. When courting an individual or somebody whom you're interested in, you're best socializing in the social zone to ensure that the person is comfortable, is aware of who you are, and is willing to allow you in further in due time, okay? You shouldn't jump and spark a trigger of discomfort with an individual whom you want to be friends with to some degree by entering closer than the 1.22 meters, the 48 inches, the 4 foot. You want to remain within as far as 3.6 meters away, okay? That's the social zone. Beyond there, we call it the public zone. That's over 12 foot. That's beyond the 3.6 meter radius around the individual. This is a very comfortable distance in communicating with those. And if you're doing it with purpose, it shows that the individual whom you're speaking with is there for a reason. There's a broad gap between you, and the reason why can vary, but it's a very, it's getting to a far distance between you. Perhaps you are, you're making small talk with somebody whom you've just seen across the road, and you're both going in different directions, so it's inevitable to, not my apologies, it's not inevitable, but it's too engaging and stressful to enter each other's space, because you've both got things to do. You don't need to waste your energy in doing so, but you can communicate from a distance. Public speakers will speak with such a space between them and the crowds purely as it would be unnatural to stand by one or two of the individuals whom are watching and keep the others far away. So we give everyone the same distribution of attention by standing at this public space. Okay? The public zone is not a comfortable zone when it comes to having a personalised and concentrated communication with an individual, but when it comes to speaking to more than one person at a time, it's your best bet. So you can spread the message, you can vocalise it with a great spread. Alright, so to re-clarify, we have the intimate zone, which is preserved for those very close to us, or those whom we feel we want to be close to. That's 6 to 18 inches around the individual, and that's 15 to 45 centimetres, okay? Beyond there is the personal zone, which is the second circle around an individual, which stems from a maximum of, let's call it 18 inches to 48 inches, 46 centimetres to 1.22 metres. We've got the social zone, which is between 4 and 12 feet around the individual, which is 1.22 metres to 3.6 metres. And to finalise, we have the public zone, which is over 12 foot. That's over 3.6 metres around the individual. Now, we all have different variations as to what we consider appropriate when it comes to these zones, which I'm going to cover in the next lesson. We're going to discuss how your background and what you're used to as far as being closed in with people, whether it be a highly populated city or out in the barren countryside, how that's going to affect how close you get to people and allow people in. And we're going to talk about that next. So thank you, keep in touch, click like, click subscribe, leave a comment, any opinions. See you next time.